watching World News program coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Miriam Zian, and these are the headlines. Algerian president receives Niger's prime minister. As the two sides hail the unprecedented momentum in bilateral ties and reaffirm their commitment to advance in joint and bilateral continental projects. Following the wildfires sweeping several provinces in central and eastern Algeria, President Tebboune declares 3 days of national mourning. Offers condolences for the loss of lives as Prime Minister heads to Jijil to assess the situation on the ground. Coming up tonight, Tehran rejects inspections of targeted nuclear sites until a protocol is established, while the White House confirms there are currently no negotiations and keeps all options on the table. And during the extraordinary session of the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers in Jeddah, Algeria calls for an end to Zionist attacks on Arab territories and stresses the importance of unifying positions in confronting the challenges facing the Muslim world. Hello and welcome back. First, in our news, Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received Niger's Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zein and his high-level delegation on Thursday. A statement from the Algerian presidency said the meeting was attended by Minister of State in charge of the General Inspectorate of State Services and Local Authorities, Brahim Merad, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, General Said Shengriha, Minister of State and Minister of Hydrocarbons Mohamed Arqab, Minister of Finance Abdelkrim Bouzred, Advisor to the President in charge of Diplomatic Affairs Ammar Abba, Minister of Energy and Renewable Energies Mourad Ajal, Minister of Post and Telecommunications Sid Ali Zarruqi, Minister of Public Works and Basic Infrastructure Abdelkader Jalawi, Secretary of State to the Minister of Mines and Mining Industries in charge of Mines Karima Bakir, and Algeria's Ambassador to Niger Saadi Ahmed. And following his meeting with President Tebboune on Thursday, Niger's Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zein said the meeting provided an opportunity to review the implementation and progress of various joint projects.
We had the honor of being received by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, which is a great honor for us. As you know, Algeria and Niger are neighboring countries, brotherly countries, and friendly countries. The President of the Republic of Niger, Brigadier General Tiani, has dispatched us to convey his deep and fraternal friendship to his brother and friend, President Tebboune. The meeting was also an opportunity to review the implementation status of various joint projects, assess their level of progress, define their prospects, and set new goals for the upcoming stage.
In the same context, the Nigerian Prime Minister stressed that the meeting marked an important milestone for his delegation, commending the readiness of ministers across the various sectors involved in cooperation between the two countries.
This meeting was a very important milestone for our delegation. I would also like to commend the readiness and commitment of the various sectoral ministers with whom we previously held a meeting chaired by the Prime Minister. I would also like to emphasize that our two countries have chosen to work toward developing and making the most of the resources that God Almighty has placed at our disposal. These are the main points and messages I want to convey to you.
And Algerian Prime Minister Sifir Ghayeb held talks on Thursday with Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zein at the head of a high-level delegation. The talks were followed by an expanded meeting between the two delegations to review bilateral cooperation and exchange views on issues of common interest. The two sides hailed the unprecedented momentum in bilateral ties, which have expanded rapidly across various fields, driven by the strong political will of Presidents Abdelmajid Tebboune and Abdurrahman Tiani.
Your visit to Algeria just days after my visit to your brotherly country to co-chair the ceremony marking the launch of drilling operations for the exploration well in the Kafra oil field embodies the unprecedented dynamism that characterizes our bilateral relations. These relations are experiencing a phase of accelerated development and expansion across various areas of common interest, thanks to the shared political will of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and his brother, His Excellency General Abdulrahman Tiani, President of the Brotherly Republic of Niger. The leaders of our two countries expressed a strong commitment to the directives aimed at elevating bilateral relations to the level of the aspirations of our two brotherly peoples during His Excellency President Tiani's visit to Algeria last February. This shared desire to achieve this objective was also demonstrated through the direct and personal supervision and close monitoring they have provided of the bilateral cooperation process, which has helped inject increasing momentum into the implementation of the agreements and the realization of the concrete projects agreed upon during the second session of the Algerian-Nigerian Joint High Commission last March.
The Algerian and Nigerian Prime Ministers welcomed the tangible progress in implementing the agreements and joint projects reached at the second session of the Algerian-Nigerian Joint High Commission last March, several of which have already been completed. They reaffirmed their commitment to accelerating work on the remaining projects, while exploring ways to deepen and expand their balanced and productive partnership by leveraging the two countries' potential to serve their shared interests and promote development and stability across the Sahel.
I express my great satisfaction at the Kafra project entering a new phase, marking a significant milestone in the Algerian-Nigerian energy partnership, and I hope that the results of the exploration operations will open promising prospects for developing Niger's resources and strengthening its national hydrocarbon production. As I emphasized in my address delivered in Kafra, this project is only the first link in our comprehensive partnership, which covers the entire value chain of the oil industry, including the establishment of joint ventures. In this regard, I would like to reiterate Algeria's commitment to supporting the Republic of Niger in the major maintenance program of the Zinder refinery, assisting in it marketing its crude oil on the international market, supplying the Nigerian market with hydrocarbon products, and expanding its storage and distribution capacities. I also reaffirm Algeria's readiness to continue training Nigerian technical teams with the aim of ensuring a sustainable transfer of expertise and knowledge across the various branches of the oil industry. In the field of electrical energy, following the completion in record time of a 2x 20 megawatt power plant in Niamey, as well as the training of a number of Nigerian technicians.
Also, the two sides also reaffirmed their determination to continue efforts to implement major continental integration projects, for most among them the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, the Trans-Saharan highway, and the Trans-Saharan backbone fiber optic link, according to the statement from the Algerian Prime Minister's office.
I express my great satisfaction at the Kafra project, entering a new phase, considering it a significant milestone in the Algerian-Nigerian energy partnership. I hope that the result of exploration works will open promising prospects for exploiting Niger's resources and increasing its national hydrocarbon production. As I stated in the speech I delivered in Kafra, this project is only the first link in our comprehensive partnership, which covers all the value chains of the petroleum industry, including the establishment of joint ventures. In this context, I would like to reaffirm Algeria's commitment to supporting the Republic of Niger in the major maintenance program for the Zinder refinery, assisting it in marketing its crude oil on the international market, supplying the Nigerian market with petroleum products, and expanding its storage and distribution capacities.
In the same context, Algeria and Niger expressed satisfaction with the significant progress made in their defense and security cooperation and its positive impact on efforts to strengthen border security and consolidate peace and stability across the region. In his remarks at the opening of the expanded meeting between the Algerian and Nigerian delegations held as part of the Nigerian Prime Minister's visit to Algeria, the minister stressed that Algeria's commitment to supporting development in the region and strengthening cooperation across various fields reflects a strong belief that building a space of shared prosperity must be based on enhancing the capabilities of both countries in all domains.
وتندرج هذه المشاريع الهيكلية الثنائية.
These bilateral structural projects are part of a broader vision of integration and complementarity through regional projects. Foremost among them, the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project, regarding which we express our great satisfaction with the pace of joint effort to implement it. Furthermore, after Algeria completed the construction of the main section of the Trans-Saharan optic fiber link on its territory, it will continue coordinating with Niger and the other relevant brotherly countries in order to fully implement the project. Algeria has also endeavored to include basic infrastructure projects such as roads and railways within an integrated approach, since achieving the objective of developing intra-African trade requires connecting the road networks of our countries. In this context, Algeria will continue coordinating and cooperating with Niger to complete this connection, thereby facilitating trade between the two countries and providing this brotherly country with a land corridor linking it to Algerian ports on the Mediterranean Sea.
Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zein visited the Martyrs Memorial in Algiers on Thursday, where he paid tribute to the martyrs of Algeria's glorious war of liberation. The Nigerian Prime Minister laid a wreath at the memorial commemorating the martyrs of the War of Liberation and observed a minute of silence in tribute to their souls. Niger's Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamine Zein left Algeria on Thursday evening following an official visit at the head of a high-level delegation, according to a statement from the Algerian Prime Minister's office. He was seen off at Houari Boumediene International Airport by Algerian Prime Minister Sefi Ghraib, accompanied by several members of the government, as well as Secretary General of the Ministry of National Defense, Major General and Director General for Africa, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Algeria's ambassador to Niger. Secretary of State to the Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of the national community abroad, Sofiane Chaïb, received on Thursday Uganda's Minister of State for Regional Cooperation, Haruna Kasolo, who is on a working visit to Algeria from August 26 to 31. A statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry said the two sides welcomed the positive momentum in bilateral cooperation across various fields, stressing the need to give it fresh impetus, particularly in economic trade and agricultural exchanges. The two sides also reviewed, according to the same source, progress in implementing the programs and projects agreed upon during the state visit by the President of Uganda to Algeria in March 2023 at the invitation of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, while stressing the importance of activating bilateral cooperation mechanisms to ensure the achievement of the set objectives. The Algerian President, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, extended on Thursday his condolences to the families of those killed in fires that swept several provinces in central and eastern Algeria. In his message, President Tebboune said he was deeply saddened by the loss of several citizens in the fires. He said Algeria was going through a difficult period, as authorities had only recently begun compensating those affected by previous fires. He prayed for God's mercy for the victims and a speedy recovery for those injured. Following the tragedy, President Tebboune declared 3 days of national mourning starting Thursday, with flags flown at half-mast nationwide and all celebrations and national sporting events suspended. President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and Prime Minister of Niger and his accompanying delegation observed a minute of silence at Al Mouradia Palace in tribute to the victims of the fires that struck several central and eastern provinces of Algeria according to a statement from the Algerian presidency. Algerian Prime Minister Sefik Ghayeb traveled to Jijel province on Thursday on the instruction of President Abdelmajid Tebboune to assess on the ground the situation caused by the fires that hit the province, monitor firefighting and response operations, and review the conditions of care provided to victims, injured people, and those affected, as well as measures taken to assist them and mitigate the impact of the fires, according to a statement from the Algerian Prime Minister's office. Non-President Abdelmajid Tebboune's instructions, Interior Minister Said Sayoud arrived in Jijel early Thursday to assess the situation, monitor firefighting efforts, and check on those injured. Accompanied by Health Minister, National Security Director, and Civil Protection Director, Sayoud visited Burj Tahar, where he was briefed on the impact of the fires, and he also visited Majdoub Said Hospital in Tahir to check on the injured and the care they are receiving, expressing his deep sorrow over the loss of life and offering condolences to the victims' families.
On behalf of the President of the Republic, I extend my sincere condolences to all the families who have lost a loved one. We pray to God to grant them His holy mercy and welcome them into His vast paradise. I also take this opportunity to wish a speedy recovery to all those affected and injured by this tragedy, hoping that they will be able to leave the hospitals as soon as possible.
Minister Sayoud stressed that the Algerian state, under the directives of President Abdelmajid Tebboune, stands with citizens during this difficult time and will continue to provide assistance to those affected, taking all necessary measures to support them and stand by their side.
In the same context, I would like to reassure all the families affected by these fires that the Algerian state and the President of the Republic remain committed to standing by the sons and daughters of this country in such circumstances. The government will provide full support and assistance to those affected so that all our injured citizens can recover and return to their normal lives as soon as possible. Furthermore, I affirm that the security services will conduct thorough investigations to determine the causes of this tragedy, given the severity of the disaster and the high number of fires that broke out simultaneously in several provinces.
Algerian Interior Minister Said Sayoud arrived in Béjaïa province on Wednesday evening on the instruction of President Abdelmajid Tebboune to supervise firefighting operations in several municipalities, according to the Interior Ministry. Sayoud was accompanied by Health Minister, National Security Director, and Civil Protection Director General. The delegation assessed firefighting efforts on the ground, reviewed the work of emergency teams, and checked on those wounded and injured. Algeria's Civil Protection Services recorded 153 vegetation and crop fires on Thursday across several provinces. 85 have been extinguished, while efforts continue to contain 67 fires still burning across 14 provinces. Captain Ben Hamzah Zuhair, head of the Information and Public Awareness Office at the Directorate General of Civil Protection, said the eastern provinces recorded the highest number of fires. He said civil protection deployed ground and aerial resources to contain the fires, as strong winds of around 80 kilometers per hour and record temperatures of up to 49 degrees Celsius in some eastern areas were hampering firefighting efforts. Moving on to Iran now, Mohammad Salami, Vice President of Iran and head of the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, said the International Atomic Energy Agency cannot demand inspections of nuclear sites that have been subjected to military attacks before a specific inspection protocol is established. Speaking at a ceremony on Wednesday marking the unveiling of 4 scientific achievements by the Atomic Energy Organization during Government Week, Salami stressed that inspections of nuclear sites damaged in what he described as an imposed war would only be possible after a protocol is drawn up for inspecting facilities that have come under military attack, in his words.
The fact that the International Atomic Energy Agency neither protests nor condemns these attacks calls into question its competence and its independence. Under the current circumstances, it has carried out the safeguard inspections required at sites that have not been attacked. As for the sites that have been attacked, we are abiding by the law passed by Parliament.
And the International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Grossi said on Wednesday that tangible progress had been made in discussions concerning Iran's nuclear fire, noting that a number of issues had been identified for work during the next phase. Speaking at a press conference in Washington, Grossi said progress had been made during contacts between U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and Iranian representatives. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright said the U.S. administration prefers to resolve the Iranian nuclear issue through negotiations and diplomacy. Speaking to reporters in remarks carried by U.S. media on Wednesday evening, Wright said the administration's objective is to ensure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons, adding that this could be achieved through negotiation and inspections or through the use of force if necessary. And Iran called on the United Nations and the Security Council to condemn what it described as the U.S. economic terrorism and to demand an immediate halt to the threats and coercive measures imposed by Washington on Tehran and other countries. In a letter addressed to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the President of the Security Council and its members, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, said U.S. sanctions deliberately and indirectly target civilians, depriving them of food, medicine, energy, and other basic necessities. The Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, participated on Thursday in the 23rd extraordinary session of the Council of Foreign Ministers of OIC member states held in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, the session provided an opportunity to discuss developments in the occupied Palestinian territories amid continued and escalating Zionist violations against the Palestinian people and the resultant serious deterioration in the humanitarian and security situation.
ينعقد اجتماعنا اليوم والأوضاع في فلسطين المحتلة.
Our meeting is taking place today at a time when the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories is increasingly dangerous, amid daily violations in the West Bank and the Holy Al-Quds, and with the continuation of a catastrophic humanitarian tragedy in Gaza that has reached unprecedented levels in the history of modern humanity. For nearly 10 months, we had welcomed with optimism the entry into force of the ceasefire in Gaza, considering it above anything else an urgent humanitarian necessity, a necessity to stop Palestinian bloodshed, and the necessity to give these beleaguered people an opportunity to catch their breath. However, this glimmer of hope soon came up against the intransigence of the Israeli occupation authorities and their usual refusal to honor their obligations and commitments to implement the second phase of an agreement reached after strenuous diplomatic efforts. In the face of these grave developments, our organization, whose defense of Al-Quds and Palestine was at the heart of the reasons for its establishment and at the core of its mission, must join an international effort to lift oppression, injustice, and deprivation from the Palestinian people and enable them to recover their legitimate rights on their land.
And in his address, Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs Ahmed Attaf reaffirmed Algeria's firm and unwavering position in support of the Palestinian cause and the legitimate and inalienable national rights of the Palestinian people, foremost among them their right to establish an independent sovereign state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital in accordance with international legitimacy resolutions. Ataf also called for an end to Israeli attacks on Arab territories, stressing the need to respect state sovereignty and territorial integrity.
تجدد الجزائر موقفها الراسخ والدائم في نصرة الشعب الفلسطيني.
Algeria renews its firm and unwavering position in support of the Palestinian people, its backing of their just cause, and its full readiness to engage in every sincere effort and every responsible initiative aimed at enabling the Palestinian people to fully exercise their national rights. Algeria also stresses that a cessation of hostilities should not be an end in itself, but rather should mark the beginning of a genuine political process. Peace that does not bring an end to the occupation is not peace, and the settlement that does not lead to the establishment of a Palestinian state is not a sustainable settlement. The crimes committed by the Israeli occupying power have not been limited to occupied Palestinian territories, but went beyond to Syria, Lebanon, and other countries of the region, in a blatant violation of their sovereignty and territorial integrity. From this podium, we reiterate our condemnation of these practices and stress the need to end the occupation of all Arab territories and put an end to Israel's blatant violations and blackmail.
The Algerian Minister of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs reiterated the importance of strengthening joint Islamic action and unifying positions on the challenges facing the Islamic world, enabling the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to play a more effective role in defending the interests of its member states and their just causes.
إنه بما يثقل الكاهن أن هذه الانتهاكات.
What makes these violations an act of blackmail all the more troubling is that they are taking place at a time when the Middle East and Gulf region are witnessing dangerous escalations that have undermined their stability, threatened their security, and depleted the resources and capabilities of their countries and peoples. Such circumstances require making reason prevail, calling for restraint and restoring to genuine dialogue conducted in good faith. We hope that the ongoing diplomatic efforts will lead to acceptable solutions that bring an end to bloodshed, restore the stability that the region so urgently needs, and enable Arab and Islamic countries to live in security and prosperity while making optimal use of their resources and capabilities.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.